Is this something that you've done before with your draft picks?
I've call it a scar. I was on the staff that saw Dante Fowler tear his ACL on the first rep of rookie minicamp, and so I've just taken the philosophy. These guys have had a lot. They've had a lot of stress over the last month. Their bodies aren't ready for football, and so we're just trying to see where they're at so we can properly get them acclimated once they get here with the veterans.
Good afternoon, morning, evening to you, wherever you're listening from. This is Saturday, May 9th, and this is the Nashville Sports Report. Okay, welcome. Longtime listeners of this brand new podcast will know that this is our second ever episode. My name is Russell Reese, Nashville native and long-suffering sports fan. Anyways, let's dive right into it. We started the show today with a clip from Robert Saleh that kind of caused some headway, some consternation in the national news media. It was Saleh talking about not pushing his draft picks too hard, referencing a previous year when they lost the second overall pick on, I think it was the first snap of rookie minicamp. It seemed to cause a big stir. People were calling him soft, saying all sorts of things. But, frankly, I would say you could look at Robert Saleh's defenses to know that they are not, in fact, soft. And I would also point out that, the Titans have put investments into these guys. A lot of people pointed to the fact that they pushed their UDFAs and tryout players real hard at the same time while having all the draft picks inside the bubble just doing conditioning drills. But that's exactly it. This is the business side of things. They invested resources. They invested draft picks into those players, whereas, unfortunately, the UDFAs, the tryout guys, they hadn't invested anything. So they treated them differently. I don't think it's the end of the world. I think we'll know more on the 18th when the players, the rookies and the veterans all get together and start playing. But honestly, it was a big kerfuffle over nothing, in my opinion. One other thing I wanted to talk about coming out of rookie minicamp before I get off the Titans was a video Titans posted of Carnell Tate, first overall draft pick, number 4, who just signed his rookie contract last night, catching some footballs. And I'll link to all these videos in the description, but this guy's hands are massive. I mean, he has got an NFL football in his hands, and it looks like you or me, a normal person, playing with a Nerf ball out on the playground in lower school or something. I looked it up, and he is measured at 10.25 inches for his hands. Now, it might interest you to know how this is done. To measure hands, they basically measure from the line where the wrist meets the hand all the way to the top of the middle finger. I'm a pretty big guy. I'm about 6'3", and I measured my hand just out of curiosity. I was barely at 8 inches. Carnell Tate is at 10.25 inches, just swallowing things up. There's no wonder he dropped very few balls during his college career. Kind of reminds me of a time I got to meet Stu Grimson at some event. Went to shake his hand, and this guy's hands just swallowed mine. And you think about all the fights, all the faces that Stu Grimson has punched with these just massive hands. I'd be curious to know how big his hands are, but I imagine they're similar to Carnell Tate's, incredibly large. All right, and on that note, we'll pivot on over to the Preds real quick. Not much to talk about, really. The NHL Draft lottery was this week, and the Preds learned that they will be picking 10th overall when the NHL Draft starts on June 26th. I imagine it's safe to presume that they will have sorted out their GM situation by then. No real movement on that since last week, but hopefully there'll be something sometime soon. Next up, we got Nashville SC, who had quite the busy week, starting off last Saturday with a heavily rotated squad on the road in Philadelphia. Last week I said I thought they'd win 3-1. I fully expected them to take over and win that match, but they ended up leaving with a 0-0 draw. Honestly, points are good. points on the road in MLS, and in fact, with a heavily rotated team, very good. So while I was over optimistic and hopeful, I don't really mind the coming home with a point anyways. And of course, they were more focused on Tuesday's match in Monterrey against Tigres. They headed down there, down 1-0 on aggregate. For those of you who don't know, CONCACAF until the finals for some reason are done a home and away, 1-1. So 2 games, and then it's aggregate of goals with away goals taking precedence. So had Nashville SC scored, they would have then been tied 1-1, and they would have needed one more goal to win. They went down there and were already missing Sam Sturridge, already missing Eddie Tagseth. Then, during warm-ups, like 15 minutes before the match, Patrick Yazbek, their other starting midfielder, injured. I think it ended up being his quad, and was later seen on crutches on the side. So they had to switch plans, throw Brian Acosta in on very short notice. I think he really handled himself quite well given the situation. But it was another big blow to a team that was already hurting. They managed to hang on, and I think they looked a lot more comfortable this match. It seemed like they had taken away some of that sort of CONCACAF black magic that I talked about last time. It seemed like they were more comfortable, even in a really daunting location like Tigres Stadium, El Volcan. And by the way, quick side, if you get a chance, check out 615 Soccer. Went down there and we're reporting on the scene and created a great video about the experience of that stadium. Kind of reminded me of Neyland just from the looks of it. I mean, obviously haven't been down there, but it looked very similar to me, or it looked like it kind of did. It had that sort of like steep angles, but could have been an incredibly daunting place to play. And I feel like Nashville SC really held up strong for quite a while until a defensive lapse in the 68th minute, which allowed Tigres to score a second goal, first of the game. But it really kind of put Nashville out of contention on the home and away series. On a side note, I learned that there is no offside on a throw-in in soccer. So, always something to learn, and that was a heartbreaking way to learn that. Some good that did come out of this game, though. I feel like some of these guys that were getting time that they wouldn't have otherwise, Wobens, Pakias, Shaq Mohabed, they got some real playing time in some really intense conditions, and it feels like that's the kind of thing that's only going to be beneficial for the team in the long run, getting these sorts of experiences and then being able to take that back to the rest of the season, I think is going to be a really great thing. I think this team probably learned a lot about themselves. In fact, BJ Callahan was asked that in the post-game press conference, and here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about it, like just right now, the team, there's pain, there's anger, it's not the result that we wanted to get. But at the same time, I think when you set out these big ambitious goals like we did, and as a club and as a team for this year, you inherently understand that setbacks could be part of that when you're going that big. And I think what we learned from this team is that it's a team that's going to compete till the end. They're going to compete for each other. And I think through this whole tournament, which is pitting the best of the best in this continent, and the experiences that we had, yes, tonight is a setback for us. But I think when we come out the other end, this team will have grown, will have learned, will be much more resilient than when we started. And I think all of those things will be rooted in sort of this setback. But the goals don't change, the mentality doesn't change. We'll get back on Thursday and we'll be continuing to stay just as hungry as we were starting this tournament.
That's BJ Callahan talking Tuesday night after Nashville SC lost to Tigres on the CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinal. Lots of good to take away from there, though. The team should be disappointed, but, I think they're going to build on the self-belief of what is already shaping up to be a really, really incredible year for this team. They've got 4 more games before the World Cup break coming up starting tonight. They take on DC United, and then Wednesday evening they're in New England to face the Revs before coming back to face, I believe it's LAFC next Saturday night here in Nashville. The team did unfortunately announce today that both Yazbek and Tagseth, their two starting midfielders, are going to be out until at least the World Cup break. Sam Surridge is a little bit more day-to-day, so he may be back before then. But it is, it's a blow for sure to lose two of their top midfielders who were really the engine driving this team. But, with 4 games left, hopefully they can just keep stacking points and get to the World Cup break. It's going to be like 6 weeks and then get back to full health. They've still got a 4-point lead over the rest of the Eastern Conference, and if they can keep stacking points leading into the break, they should be in a great position to really make some noise here in MLS, and then see what they can do in Leagues Cup starting in August. So, as I said, really on track to have perhaps one of their best years ever. Speaking of best years ever, Vanderbilt, who for many, many years has not been known as an athletic powerhouse, has really, in my opinion, had one of their best athletic scholastic years that I can think of. All across the board, there were Vanderbilt teams succeeding in dramatic ways. Let's just run down some of these things. Football, best ever record, 10-2 in the regular season. Finished the regular season ranked 13th in the nation. Diego Pavia was a Heisman Trophy runner-up. Eli Stowers was a first-team All-American and selected in the second round of the NFL Draft to go play for the Philadelphia Eagles. Pavia, while not drafted, was a second-team All-American. And they managed to flip Jared Curtis from Nashville Christian, the number 1 ranked quarterback and overall player in this year's recruiting class. If you had pointed to that and said that sort of thing was in the future for Vanderbilt football when I was a kid, taking in games in the early 90s in an empty Dudley Field, I would have thought you were crazy. But it goes beyond that. Men's basketball finished the year 27-9, ranked 17th in the final AP poll. Made it to the SEC tournament final. Tyler Tanner, local Nashville native, who is quick as all get out, really impressive ball player, was first team all SEC and all defense. Vanderbilt ended up losing to Nebraska on the last second Tyler Tanner shot in the NCAA tournament, but I think, that ended up being the best game of the tournament, in my opinion. The women's team was even better than that. Women's basketball team finished 29-5. They were undefeated at Memorial Gym, made it all the way to the Sweet 16th, were ranked as high as number 5 during the season. I believe they finished at number 8 in the coaches poll and number 10 in the APs. Michaela Blakes is a true superstar. She was SEC Player of the Year, first team All-American, led Division I in scoring, like real deal. She'll be playing in the WNBA for a long, long time. We're lucky to be able to watch her right now. Shea Ralph was the SEC and AP National Coach of the Year. Aubrey Galvin was the SEC Freshman of the Year. Vanderbilt women's basketball team is really building quite the juggernaut of a program right now. And on top of that, I think they happen to be the absolute best value for money of any entertainment that you can find in Nashville right now. You can get into a Vanderbilt women's game for next to nothing and see some really, really high-level basketball. So I know that a lot of Nashville has become a lot more expensive, and there are a lot of things that don't feel worth the price. But a game at Memorial will always be interesting to see just because of the layout. And both teams right now, but in particular, the Vanderbilt women's basketball team is really worth the watch. I highly encourage you to get out there and support them next season. I know they do ticket packages for 3-5 games, whole season, half season, all kinds of stuff available. So if you're looking for a inexpensive yet really good sporting experience, Vanderbilt women's basketball games, one of the ways to go. Okay, went a little long on that, but let's get back to some other Vanderbilt teams that have really succeeded this year. Women's soccer finished 8th in the nation. They won the SEC tournament. They lost in overtime in the Elite Eight to TCU, playing in the NCAA tournament. Sarah Wojciechowski was the SEC goalie of the year. She had 14 shutouts. Sydney Watts was the SEC forward of the year. These are all big heights for Vanderbilt. I think this was the first time they'd made it to the Elite Eight. So just another strong showing. The bowling team, which is a perennial powerhouse, was the national semifinalist this year, finished ranked number 8 in the nation. Women's golf, who are still actually in play, are currently ranked number 13th. They play in the Stanford Regional starting on Monday. That's May 11th. Women's tennis, also still in play, currently ranked 14th. They beat Xavier and Clemson en route to the NCAA Super Regionals versus Ohio State, which actually is today. So I don't know if it's showing on any networks, but they're out there, and good luck to them. The men's team finished ranked 24th. They upset Notre Dame in the NCAA tournament first round before losing to Illinois. Vanderbilt even started a volleyball team this year, and they finished 9-18, but frankly, that's not bad for a first-year program. So a lot of exciting things happening at Vanderbilt right now when it comes to sports. By my count, that is 7 teams that finished in the top 20 nationally, and that's even with the Vandy boys baseball team having an off year. Normally they would be up there as well. So just all things considered, I think Vanderbilt deserves the recognition for the success they are having and will probably continue to have. But this was a really, really special year for their sports, and they deserve a shout-out for it. So well done, Vandy. Lastly, the Sounds are finishing up a 6-game series in Louisville this weekend. They will be back home for 6 games against the Iowa Cubs starting Tuesday, May 12th. And that pretty much does it for the Nashville Sports Report. A reminder that we are on Blue Sky and Twitter at NSH Sports Report. Please like, comment, whatever on these videos. It helps us, and we'd love to hear from you. I'd love to talk to you. If you got any ideas, if you hear anything you want to hear about or anything you want to come on and talk about, please let me know. As I mentioned earlier, I will link the videos in the description. My name is Russell Reese. This has been the Nashville Sports Report for Saturday, May 9th. Thanks for listening.